Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. This is your host, Tracy Hayes, and today I have a very leaders in the mortgage industry here in Northeast Florida, if not Florida as a whole, probably even the Southeast. Anyone who's put 35 years in the mortgage business, he's a tough man. So he's put up with a lot. But we're going to learn a little bit about Tom Reber with Cross Country Mortgage. He's one of the very influential in the Mortgage Bankers Association here, not only locally, but nationally as well. And we're going to hear about that. Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you coming today and being a part of what I do.
I appreciate it. I do not have my notes here in front of me because we are working mobile today in Tom's office. As you can see, his beautiful background behind him there as well. But Tom, I like to start off every show. Where are you from?
Where
did you grow up?
I was born in Albany, Georgia, but I grew up here in Jacksonville, Florida. I've lived here 53 of my 55 years, and in the mortgage space, I've been doing it, like you said, a long time. And I had about 8 years in national accounts, so I've been to every major city in the United States.
Awesome.
Cut my teeth learning from other extremely top producers, real estate companies, and getting a nice swath.
Are you a Florida grad? You don't have any of this on your LinkedIn.
No, I went.
Education's no longer important.
Well, when you get the scars and tattoos and the street cred of doing the job for as long as I have, but I went to St. John's River Community College.
Oh, okay.
Actually specialized in playing baseball. Went to UNF for a hot minute and got into, hey, I need a job.
You know, I did not realize that. In St. John's River, they've got a new coach over there, or at least for the last few years anyway. Yes. And from what I understand, they're putting together a pretty good ball club. Yeah. And I have some inside information because a friend of mine is involved with Major League Baseball scouting.
Yes.
And he plans to be up here quite a bit. There's a few ball players on that team right now.
Without a doubt. St. John's State College now is what it's called. When I was there at St. John's River Community College, Ross Jones, I played with his brother. And he was a pitcher on our team back in the late 80s.
Awesome.
And Ross was actually a pro player at that time. He was a pitcher. And he's taken that program to higher levels. That I played golf last year at Palatka. I would call it a country club, but the municipal course down in Palatka for a fundraising event, and went by the field, and I was blown away. But they went to the Junior College World Series this year. They got knocked out, but they went. They were over in Arizona, first time ever, which is tip my cap to the Vikings, and great job.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to when my friend of mine that I graduated from high school comes up to scout those guys, go down and see them and go watch a few games for sure. So you graduate from the Army. Was finance, what was your major? What did you?
Like I said, my major is pretty much baseball.
Major, whatever will get me by.
I wanted to play further. I wanted to aspire to be a pro player. I thought I was pretty good back in the day. Came back home and was trying to figure it out, and pretty much was voluntold to go get a job. And back then, parents were like, hey, you can get a job, but you're not going to stay here. And I got a job working at Stockton, Watley, and Davin / Bank Boston Mortgage Corporation as a computer operator, working midnight to 8 in the morning. So back then, it took 2 or 3 floors of computers to do what your smartphone can do today.
Right.
And so all the jobs that were submitted during the day were run at night, along with the printing of the paper, the checks, all that stuff that was done. So I worked on that from midnight to 8 in the morning. Then 8 o'clock in the morning, I took all the reports around, and I learned the mortgage business by delivering reports at the very beginning back in '89.
Wow.
And I played on the corporate softball team. And I went from 165 pounds of ball player muscle and went down to about 155 because I'm not wired to work all night and not sleep all day. Because I like to sleep at night, not during the day.
Right.
So anyway, bottom line is playing on the softball team as well as a men's travel team called the Jacksonville Vikings. The softball team was winning, and I went to them and I said, hey, guys, I can't do this job anymore. And I was voluntold, hey, you need to become a loan officer due to the fact that you're not quitting the softball team because we're winning. I'm like, great. What does that do? And they're like, well, you finance houses. And I'm like, I guess I could do that. Sounds like a plan. So immediately I went from the softball field, went to the interview they lined up for me, and Andy Wetzel, I love Andy Wetzel, who was the branch manager of Bank Boston Mortgage Corporation, looked at me and said, Yeah, we're not hiring.
Why does that name sound so familiar?
He was the branch manager back in the late 80s to the early 90s at Bank Boston Mortgage Corporation, SWD, Bank Boston, Andy Wessel. Now he's a bank president up in Tennessee. I don't know exactly where. But Andy, Andre Brooks, a name you may remember, worked with Tom Callahan, Gary Royals, Scott Warren, Kelly O'Brien a long time ago. All those guys, all those mortgage athletes. We had a phenomenal team. Probably about a 6% market share in this market. And anyway, when I met with Andy and said, Andy, they want me to be a loan officer, he goes, no, you're 21 years old and you're a hot shot. I'm not hiring you. I go to the softball game that night and I said, hey guys, probably my last game because I'm out. I can't work nights anymore. I'm dying. And they all looked at me and goes, Andy didn't get the message right. And I'm like, okay. So I go back in Andy's office the next morning, and he's like, congratulations, I'm going to hire you, and I'm pretty much going to fire you in 6 months. So anyway, fast forward.
6 months.
6 months. Well, in that 6 months, probably 2 weeks into it.
Right.
Cecilia Faircloth was the receptionist at the office.
Yeah, I have to say, one of the great things about you, because that's one of my weaknesses, you remember names. You're rattling off names from 30 plus years ago.
The DNA of how I got here, I forget nobody. Because there's so many people that have enabled me to get where I am today. And the names that I mentioned, there's still a lot of people in the business today.
Right.
And so anyway, Cecilia, who I walked in, I was 2 weeks into it. Andy goes on vacation. And I said, Cecilia, I'm going to go make sales calls. She says, no way, you're not making sales calls. I said, well, I can't read this book anymore. They had 3 big binders, FHA, VA.
Like you're supposed to memorize the guidelines,
exactly.
right?
Congratulations. So anyway, I go out and make sales calls to Watson West Side. I grew up on Thumper Street on the west side in Cedar Hills. And I used to go to the Watson office to get my birth certificate notarized to play Little League Baseball. And I walked in there and with my suit on, and I said, hi, good to see you. Courtney Ray walks out and says, Tommy Reber, what are you doing here? I said, well, Mr. Ray, I'm a loan officer. And he said, no, you're not. Get in my office. So I go in there and I sit down with Courtney, and he goes through and goes, you're really a loan officer with Bank Boston Mortgage Corporation? They would hire you? I said, well, I look good in my suit, don't I? He goes, well, you look good, but can you make a loan? And I said, well, Courtney, I'm not sure, but I'm out making sales calls today. So anyway, as I'm sitting there, Musette Gilberstadt walks in, says, Tommy Reber, what are you doing here? I said, hey, Miss Gilberstadt, how are you? I went to high school with her daughter. Mm-hmm. She said, when you're done with Mr. Ray, get your Fannie in my office. I need to talk to you about some mortgage stuff. I'm like, there's a win. Right. Literally 2 minutes later, Maxine Kelly walks in and says, Tommy Reber, what the heck are you doing here? And I said, hey, Miss Kelly, how are you? How's Stephanie doing? She looks at me and she says, don't leave without talking to me. Courtney's eyes are getting the biggest silver dollar. She's like, who don't you know in my office?
Right.
Literally, Mary Cook walks in. You just, all these agents that I had didn't really knew that I knew that were in the real estate business have walked in the office at one time or another. I walked out. I go out of the office with 2 contracts in hand. I get in my little pickup truck and I said, I am bringing home the bacon. I get in there. I go all the way back over to Bay Meadows Way, and I come in like a NASCAR winner. I bring the contracts to the processing team, and I drop them on Vicki Walker's desk and Susan Davis's desk, and we sit down there. And I said, congratulations, ladies. I got more where that come from. And they were like,
so the perception initially is that you're young, you don't even own your own home, you don't even know what a mortgage is.
Don't know it.
And I mean, did they feel you could not represent, or just because maybe you didn't know enough people to approach them? What was that initial?
So on the softball team, we had 2 loan officers. And those loan officers, you know, being a loan officer, prestigious position. Mm-hmm. And I played shortstop for the team. The head of IT at the time was our pitcher. We had 2 or 3 executives that come to the games. And they were playing the attorneys/accountants league. And they hadn't won a game in a couple years. When I stepped in there, they asked me to play on the softball team as part of getting the job. So they said, hey, captain of the baseball team, we play softball here. Yeah. Next thing you know, they start winning. Right. And we win our division. And then that's about that time I'm like, hey, I got to go. I'm dying. Right. And they're like, no, we kind of like the taste of winning. That's how I got into the mortgage space. And but Andy looked at me, and he looked at me and said, Tom, I fall in love with you, but you don't have any experience, knowledge, background about mortgages. You haven't even owned a home before.
Right.
And I just said, well, Andy, I need a job, and I'm hungry.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, no. I go back the next day, and he's red-faced and said, oh, well, I'm going to hire you, and I'm going to fire you in 6 months. When he went off to vacation, and I had 2 contracts in hand, when I walked back to that office, Cecilia goes, holy cow, where did you get those? I said, well, I collected 2 contracts. That's what I was supposed to do. I walked back to the processing team. I put the 2 contracts down on Vicki Walker's desk, who's still a dear friend of mine today. And I put them on her desk, and she looked at me and she goes, what do you think I'm going to do with those? And I said, well, Vicki, I'm going to go get more of those, because that's what I do is I collect contracts. So I turn away to walk away, and it's just dead silence. And I stopped. It's a little too quiet. I turned back around. They're all looking at me. Susie Kaysen was like, who do you think you are? And I said, I'm Tom Reber. I'm a loan originator. I'm going to get more contracts so we can originate more loans around here.
Right.
And they looked at me and they said, good luck with that. I go back out. I start making sales calls on 103rd Street. I meet Robert Woods from, at that time, Shell Real Estate, and then Jimmy Farhad at Century 21. I come back with another contract. I slide in. I have another contract. Cecilia Faircloth looks at me and says, Tom, you realize you're the top producer today. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? She goes, in 2 days, 3 contracts. Let me know how it goes in the back room.
Back in this time period, I know you're talking about, because I'm graduating high school, going into college myself, and just a few years behind you. The real estate business at that time, as I tell a lot of these lot of sub 30 real estate agents right now that are really doing great. Back then, the real estate agent was typically the spouse of somebody who was the president of the bank or whatever, and she tinkered over here in real estate.
That's right.
And in the mortgage side, I've never discussed this on the podcast ever. On the mortgage side, they, thought, writing a loan was, I guess, a rocket science. So you had to be, special to write a loan. When really is just having great mentors, people behind you that's supporting you. But the key point, and one of the things I wanted to get into you with, you had obviously, went to college here. People knew you. You walked in. You immediately, you obviously had some influence and credibility. You had some credibility with them.
Absolutely.
And they didn't look at you, even though you were 21 years old. They didn't go, oh, he's this 21-year-old brat kid that was playing on ball. You had earned some credibility with them that they were willing to, knowing this was your first deal.
It was incredible. When Courtney Ray gave me the endorsement sitting in his office, that was a big win. And the reason I got that is I literally rode my bicycle to the Watson Real Estate office and brought my birth certificate in to get it notarized so I could play Little League Baseball. Courtney Ray. Little did I know that a lot of these people I went to high school with, their mothers were real estate agents. I didn't realize that Musette Gilverstadt was working at Watson Real Estate down the street on Blanding Boulevard. And when I walked in and sat down in my blue suit, they literally walked by and did a double take and said, hey, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I'm a loan officer at Bank Boston Mortgage Corporation. Come see me.
Because they've known you a dozen years at this point.
Well, 6, 7 years, high school, and going to events and things like that. And, Confederate Point was the cat's meow on the west side of a neighborhood, and a lot of them lived in there. And like I said, it was, if you're willing to go make sales calls and make a relationship, it's no different than today. There's a better than good chance you're going to make a connection. And so learning early on to say, hello, I'm Tom Reber, is usually the can opener opportunity. And then what I've crafted over the many, many years is how to be an interviewer. People ask me what I do for a living. And I say, I interview people. What's your name? What's your sign? Where are you from? Simple game. So I say, let's talk about what are you looking for? How are you going to get there? And what can I do to help you get there? And all of them come back and say, tell me more about what you do. Well, great. But before we do, tell me what you got going. And the next thing you know, it's a dialogue of meaningful conversation to win. And it started back in the late 80s.
We use the term relationship a lot.
Yes.
I use it with, if you listen to any of my episodes with the real estate agents, it's relationship. And we continue to use it, but we don't really, I think a lot of people who are listening, or people outside the industry, or even some people maybe aren't as successful in our industry, can't really define it. Because it is, a lot of it's, are you clicking because you play softball together? Is that why you mesh? Or you went to high school or went to high school with one of the, that's, all of a sudden the door is open a little bit for you because you've got some credibility. They've known you for 6 or 7 years, basically saw you grow up and earn that. In the loan officers today that you're working with, because things haven't changed.
No,
it's
not
still,
much.
you and I have talked about this in depth offline about, how to build these relationships, because we know our realtor friends, unfortunately, if we, foul one off occasionally, they're looking for a pinch hitter, often not only to find out that that person's going to foul one off too,
I think, to your point, the relationship comes down, are you willing to be there when times aren't so good? Everybody thinks it's easy, and we've touched on this, and I'll kind of hammer this point home. Are you a maker, or are you a taker? So people who take transactions are what I call people that hit singles and hope they get enough singles to score a run, right? If you're a transaction maker, which basically means you help them organically find ways, whether it's total cash benefit analysis, whether it's looking at and going through the credit report with the customer, helping them understand how to be optimized on what they're doing, not from a credit point or credit score perspective only, but from a cash flow perspective. How do we take that, which is actually what you need to do today when rates are higher. You can still do a blended average on that, but at the end of the day is what are you doing when things aren't so good? When realtors are, hey, Tom, I got to make this happen. How do we get this? How do we make sure that we capture? That's relationship selling. Total cost benefit analysis is a part of that, but the relationship piece is how do we help transactions have a higher percentage to succeed for the right reasons, buyers and sellers.
Well, let's take that in, two different times. I mean, obviously, we know 7, 8, 9 into 10 was a tough time. Successful real estate agents learned how to do those short sales.
Damn right.
There obviously, as 2008 came around, if I remember going to get my dates correct, in late 2008, the rates started to drop. So your and I business came in because we were doing a lot of refis.
That's right.
In that standpoint. But from the standpoint of helping the agent and then take it to today, we got a shortage of inventory. I've talked to many mortgage loan officers. Basically the last year or so has been the worst year for guys that have been in it a decade or more. There's real estate agents obviously that are rolling out. So what are some of the things that you've done and you've learned over the way to get creative, helping the agent as you were just mentioning?
So I like to say that we do a buyer consultation. So people, hey, go get pre-approved. Great. We're going to do a little bit more than get pre-approved. I'm going to have a conversation with you. Let's look at the 4 corners of the transaction: income, asset, credit. We have to galvanize the first triangle before we can bring the 4th leg of the stool in, which is the collateral. You need to understand how, why, and do you have the ability to repay. When you bring in those 3 pieces, you can bring the collateral in with confidence. However, game plan is in place. It also comes with a little bit more additional collaboration with your real estate agent partner to say, hey, here's the prescription, here's the high watermark, let's fit what we can. And we have to have a plan, because another phrase that I've kind of coined, Tracy, is hurry up and wait, hurry up and close. If you want to sit around and hope the deals are you're going to miss, you have to be in position, you have to be ready, and you have to be ready to strike. So the buyer consultation up front to get the collaboration between the actual home buyers and their agent on the same page is critical. And financing sells houses, and it's a cash flow analysis game. And most people come in, and a lot of them have a preset mindset of, ooh, the rates are bad, or ooh, my payment. Understand, I can work on all those. This is a cash flow game, not just a payment game. How do we take and optimize your whole cash flow analysis to put you into this house, even though you may have a 7% rate or 6% rate? And how do you have your blended average go from, hey, my outgo was $4,000 a month, that I bought a new house and my outgo went down to $2,800 a month. He saved me $1,200. Holy cow. Who cares about the rate in theory? Because my cash flow analysis just went down. I still bought a new house. I was able to upgrade for the right reasons. That's total cash benefit analysis.
I know the standard loan officer out there, a lot of times these agents are, 11th hour, they're getting their pre-qualification. Hopefully, maybe we do get a couple weeks right now, because it did slow down with the inventory.
That's right.
We are actually getting time to get those few days to actually get it approved by the underwriter
Fast track.
and so forth. But to take this time with everyone, and then is the customer always willing to sit there and listen? What you just explained to me, I'm like going, okay, they just bought a new house. Well, most likely, if they've bought a new house in the and didn't truly like go downscale from a $500,000 house to a $250,000 house, because the rates went up, their outlay is going to be a lot more.
Right.
Explain a little bit more in detail what you're talking about, or maybe give an example, maybe one you've had recently, where you went through this cash flow analysis.
So a lot of folks, they buy their box one house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They buy it for $250,000. Now it's worth, let's say, $350,000 or $400,000 in 5 years. So they have all this pixie dust in this house, but they have a 2.75% interest rate. Great. 2 car payments, 2 credit cards. All of a sudden, they've lived to their means. Now, they are what we call a move-up buyer for the right reasons. They sell this house, which is a starter home for somebody else, to go get a slightly move-up house, take the pixie dust out of house A. Let's just say it's $175,000 net equity they get out. They've lived in it for almost 3 or 4 years, whatever the number is. They then come over here and they buy this house. Well, it's much easier to homogenize the 30-year fixed payment, because the difference between $50,000 either way is not a heck of a lot of money compared to a $500 car payment, a $650 car payment, another $300.
Are you big on paying off cars? I mean, the refinance times, it's always a challenge. Do you pay off the car? I mean,
my vote is, if you can get rid of the car, get rid of the car. Because when you look at the cash flow, let's just say you have monthly income of $6,500 a month. You pick up $500 a month off a car payment, it brings lift to the cash flow analysis, so they become much more comfortable. So when you spell out and give them the simple Fisher-Price approach of, hey, guess what? You didn't realize it, but you're already spending 50% of your income just to live in that house. Take the powder out of this house, put it into this house, upgrade your house, get the 4-bedroom, get the 3-bath, pay the $500,000. So basically, in theory, you're going from a $250,000, which you're going to sell for $400,000, to a $500,000, which is a $4.3, and you're going to sit there and take $75,000 of the $100,000, wipe out the 2 cars, wipe out the 2 credit cards, and now you have a cash flow positive of significance.
Why do you? I mean, you've experienced this.
Yep.
When I was in the call center doing a lot of refinances, especially, late 08, 9, 10, 11, 12. Why people have this psychological block of they're so worried about paying off this $400,000 debt when they are sitting on $20,000 in credit card debt. They're not putting a down payment on the car, so their payments, $500-$600 or more.
Well, that's a great point. And I think when you do the math with them, a lot of times you literally have to say, hey, do you have a Fisher-Price calculator? Let's walk it through. Money coming in, money going out. Are you better or worse by doing this? 99.9% of the time they say, I'm much better. We're clicking.
Right.
And this is a transaction maker. Now you have the confidence. And I say this a lot. If you don't have confidence and swagger, like sharks, they smell it, they don't trust you, they're going to swim off. If you have confidence, swagger, and you can back it up with stats, facts, and figures, you have the glue that it takes to make a collaborative approach on a transaction.
Right.
So your real estate agents at comfort, they understand, and your buyers are at comfort. They become very sticky and understanding. And I say the word sticky because we're a team. This team, you can't turn a double play. You can't do a 6-4-3 double play without having the 6, the 4, and the 3, right? Same thing in real estate. You got to have finance, real estate, and listing agent. They all have to collaborate together to win, not counting the other 14 players from closing agent, surveyor, termite, home inspector. All those pieces have to collaborate together at the same time.
Right. I'm going to change subjects change angles just a little bit. You've been here for 40 plus years.
That's right.
In the area. You've seen the growth.
Yep.
We're really, I don't even know if Jacksonville was considered full, I think I say Jacksonville, the region.
Yep.
The greater Jacksonville market area, we're probably at 45%?
Yeah, if
If
that.
that.
If that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a small town with big britches. We're a small town even today with the migration is real. We've got people coming from Chicago, D.C., New York, San Francisco, Denver of all places are all coming here. Thousands per month. It's crazy. We have plenty of places to grow. Obviously, the north side, the 32034 Fernandina Beach, the 202 connector in Yulee, go all the way down to the Blue Route, which is the Shands Bridge expansion. International Golf Parkway is no longer in the middle of nowhere. It's in between St. Augustine and Jacksonville. And by the way, guess what? You got a Buc-ee's, you got a Costco. It's officially on the map. Palencia is no longer in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
We have so much to go in the southern part of St. Johns County that's going to continue to explode.
What is your opinion on Hastings? I thought by now somebody would have done something, especially when it came over, and, they had to go, the county took over. Why that area? It's just time. Somebody, I envisioned a new Villages.
I do too. I think eventually when the Blue Route gets done, and that Shands Bridge goes into a 4-lane bridge, you're going to have State Road 13 going south become extremely popular. It's just like everybody's talked about the 32043, which is Green Coast Springs, and the evolutions where the old Reynolds aluminum plant, I think, used to be on the corner. All that has been rezoned. That's all been done. That is going to morph 100% in 5 years. So when this Blue Route Bridge gets done, I have a feeling State Road 13 south, as you go past Orangedale or Coley's Cove going south, that's all going to start becoming really popular. And Rivertown, the backside of Rivertown that everybody thought was in the middle of nowhere, becomes really popular.
No, now the Publix is out there. Yeah. They've expanded the road all the way out there. Rivertown is one of the hot spots. I think some people, obviously 5 years ago, or when the first houses, people were like, man, that's way out there. Yeah. Or we were talking about King and Bear.
Yeah.
When King and Bear went in, it was out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Now
there's still a cow pasture right next to it, but that's slowly half of it was just taken away. They're building something, and I'm sure the other half will sell soon.
That will happen. We won't even recognize that place in 10 years or less. We won't even recognize it. And I think going south, St. Johns County still has a lot of bull run left in it going south. And like you said, Hastings in that area, Elkton is untouched. I mean, it's untouched land.
Yeah, and crossing over to Palatka, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, you go through East Palatka, and then Putnam County is probably, from a stats, facts, and figure standpoint, it's probably the poorest county in the state, but it also has the highest upside with waterfront property all over the place. Bostwick on the east side, the west side, all that river is going to cycle. All
right, so you're running Reber Mortgages.
Yep.
You're looking at this lay of this land.
Yep.
How would you, and I asked this question because you've been in leadership for a long time.
Yep.
You've been managing teams over areas, that kind of thing. I know you got some solid guys that have followed you for a long time.
Sure.
There's supposed leaders out there that have worked for you.
Yep.
You've spun off other leadership.
Yep.
You're given a clean slate and said, Tom, I want you to create Reber Mortgages. How? Tell us the breakdown, and I want to go. Where would you geographically? One question, like, hey, would you go out? Put offices in strategic locations. Yeah. Do you have? What's your mindset on that? Next to real estate offices or whatever it might be, and then how would you structure Reber Mortgages from the LO up to the CEO?
Yeah. Well, I'm a firm believer over the many years. I believe everybody needs to have their hand on the electric fence. If you don't have your hand on the rope, pulling it in the right direction, you're probably not going to be a part of my team. Processing, underwriting, leadership. You have to have a taste every month of why and how you get there. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've told most everybody I work with is there's a reason why I keep my hand on the electric fence is because if I'm not connected to the electric fence, I'm disconnected. And a lot of leadership you have today, they've gotten really, really big and they become very complacent. That's not me. So I push organizations where I work to be mortgage excellence. And mortgage excellence is, hey, you don't make everything perfect, but if you have the hustle, the drive, and commitment to win, more than likely you're going to provide mortgage excellence. So building a culture out with everybody saying, hey, it's difficult to get customers, it's precious to keep them, and we have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and strive for mortgage excellence every day. Because if you're not striving for mortgage excellence, then why are you here? You have to be in tune. That's why I say you have to have your hand on the rope. Number two, location and where you go and how do you want to expand. I'm real bullish on Daytona. I'm bullish on St. Augustine. I'm bullish on North Florida, Jacksonville, of course, 904. And I like the Panhandle. That's the sandbox that I like. I like the eastern and northern corridor in southeast Georgia of where I'm at. I'm bullish on all of it. I know it. I live it. I play there. I work there. I live there. Simple as that. And when I look at what's next in the mortgage business, I see we're starting to see where are we going to be. The velocity of money, the velocity of change, and with all the CFPB stuff that's going on and the banking industry, who's going to be in this business to lend money? The good news is there's plenty of money. The bad news is it being a broker? Is it being an actual mortgage banker with a bank, or is this just to be a correspondent lender banker?
Right.
I will say this, there's no real right answer today on that because it's a cash flow game and you have to be able to make a margin to be able to survive. The structures that are in place today, you have 3 defined ones and then you have some hybrids. I think ultimately it comes down to people. People, process, technology in that order. The velocity of information, the velocity of technology is at an all-time high. How do you stay in front of the wave, Tracy, and be able to surf the wave and keep yourself in a position of winning, AKA providing products, programs, creativity, knowledge, and experience? That's a 5-tool athlete I just described. That's a 5-tool mortgage athlete. Today, you have to be a 5-tool mortgage athlete to really be able to participate and collaborate. There's a lot of people that are application takers that are, hey, check the box, sign here, go here. They turn it loose. The odds of that succeeding are 50-50. It's kind of give you a taste.
So if you were, and just I want to finish up that question and lead me into the next one, would you strategically start looking, assuming money was not a true obstacle, to start placing people in those locations, all those places that we just mentioned,
Yeah.
Hastings, Palatka,
Yeah.
having people start working those areas, because right now there are people down there. Obviously the banks have their people out of the branches that are working there, possibly.
The talent
but they're
is there. It needs to be, I'm not going to say the word trained. You know why? Because everybody who gets trained doesn't mean they're going to be good.
right.
I'm a firm believer the aptitude of the ability of information equals winning. There's so many people that I always hear all the time is, hey, they just need to be trained. If I have to train you, I have to fire you. That means you're not getting out of your own way to get the job done. So there's a lot of folks that come to me and said, hey, Tom, I want this, 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 and this. And I say, great. That's 1, 2, 6, 12. That's at least 24 man hours of training you on the hope that you can get out of your own way. Inspire me to want to train you. Make me want to be a part of your success.
Would you agree or disagree with this statement? Because I'm going to tell you what I personally believe from what I've seen. Some of these, especially the larger lenders, have spent so much time and energy on technology, which is important.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily have to be the leader. You don't necessarily have to be the first one to have that. And they've really taken away the resources in giving people like yourself the time to mentor and groom some of those potential mortgage athletes, as you like to say.
To that point, in this order, people, process, technology. This way gets you the synergy. If you go technology first, you devalue the people and you hope the process works. If you go process first, technology second, people third, well, you have no control.
Yeah.
Nobody's in it to win it. So all of a sudden you have no accountability. So as long as the person's at the front of the spear, the stem, the middle part is strong based on the support and enhancements of the technology. Now you can go in and make it happen. And I believe it. People, process, technology in that order equals the synergy of success. And keep it in that order. And that's why I call it a wave. You have to be in front of the wave, navigating the wave. Because when you're in a turbulence, guess what? You're not in control. But if you're in front of the wave, you can go where you need to go because you're in front of the wave. You have people supported by the process, enhanced by the technology, and guess what? The velocity of the support and the enhancements of technology today are moving at the speed of business, which is fast.
Well, I think some of these institutions that we know, I worked for one for a long time that really did put their people first, because your people will tell you what technology you need.
Correct.
Versus trying to spend all this time in research and development in the technology that your people don't see value in,
Let me ask you this
have
question.
no time for.
The most powerful three-letter word in our language. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Keep your hand on the electric fence. That's why leadership has to be in tune. That's why I said a flat management curve. When you have this steep management curve where you have 2 or 3 layers to get to marketing, and marketing gets sold by some company out of Timbuktu saying, hey, buy this canned thing that's going to solve all your problems. Well, more than likely the person's not worth the field. It's going to say, I love that. It does so many things. It has all these sparkles. It doesn't work for the field, and the field never uses it.
Right.
So you just wasted millions of dollars to have a connection to something that provides little or no value. You have to have weapons of mass loan production. And the people, to your point, Tracy, that can give you that is the people that do the job.
Right.
Right.
100%.
You have to go. That's why a flat management curve gets you the connectivity, the velocity of actual knowledge and experience to the leadership has to be this close, because the more disconnected you are, that you think you know, because people that are in those positions typically surround themselves with people that tell them what they want to hear. I'm the tallest midget because I check the most boxes and matrices. Great. But that doesn't get us any more business.
Right.
How do we get more repeatable, scalable business? We want to invest into those traits, because those pieces will then bring lift, which is foundation, repeatable, scalable, so you don't have the up and down of the business.
Right.
You have more of a steady ride.
So you going into that, you've been in the business several decades.
Yep.
You've been through some highs and lows. You've seen, from the time where there was no technology.
Zero. No laptops.
To now where there's, but I think I don't hear it as much now, but we did hear it probably, anywhere in the last decade, how obviously the real estate agent was going to be replaced by,